On October 14th, 1066, on a single hill in England, thousands of men faced each other. Swords clashed, shields shattered. The ground was soaked in blood. But history would not be written by the size of an army, by tactics, or by a king's ambition. History would be changed by one arrow, one moment, one strike, the end of an era and the birth of a new England. In January 1066, King Edward the Confessor died, but his death did not bring peace. It brought uncertainty. Edward left behind no clear heir. England was suddenly without a king, and that absence of power was dangerous. 3 men stepped forward to claim the throne. Harold Godwinson, the most powerful noble in England, backed by the army and much of the nobility. William of Normandy, waiting across the English Channel, claiming the crown had been promised to him. And Harald Hardrada, the Viking king of Norway, ready to take England by force. Each believed the throne was his by right. Each was prepared to fight for it. And England, caught between these claims, stood on the edge of war. Before William ever set foot in England, Harold faced another danger. The Vikings attacked from the north. Harold marched his army nearly 300 kilometers and defeated the invaders at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. He won, but at a terrible cost. His soldiers were exhausted, wounded, barely rested. And then the message arrived. William had landed on the southern coast. Harold turned his army once more and marched straight toward his fate. At Hastings, 2 completely different armies faced each other. The English, mostly infantry, armed with heavy axes and shields, formed the famous shield wall, defensive and disciplined. The Normans, cavalry archers, infantry, flexible and aggressive, Harold took position on Senlac Hill. High ground, a strong defensive position, a solid shield wall. In the early hours of the battle, the English held the advantage. Norman attacks were pushed back again and again. At Hastings, 2 completely different armies faced each other. The English, mostly infantry, armed with heavy axes and shields, formed the famous shield wall, defensive and disciplined. The Normans, cavalry archers, infantry, flexible and aggressive, Harold took position on Senlac Hill. High ground, a strong defensive position, a solid shield wall. In the early hours of the battle, the English held the advantage. Norman attacks were pushed back again and again. William attacked the hill again and again, again. Then, suddenly, a rumor spread through the Norman army. William is dead. The left flank began to retreat. The English believed they had won. They broke the shield wall and chased the enemy downhill. It was a fatal mistake. William was alive. He lifted his helmet and revealed his face. Then the trap was sprung. The Norman cavalry turned back and cut down the pursuing English. The shield wall began to collapse. As the battle dragged on, neither side could break the other. The English shield wall still stood, weakened but unbroken. William understood something crucial. Frontal attacks were no longer enough, so he changed his strategy. He turned to his archers and gave a new command. Not straight shots, but high shots. Arrows were launched into the sky, arching upward before falling back down from above. They rained onto the English lines. Shields could stop arrows from the front. They could not stop death from the sky. And then, in a single moment, everything changed. An arrow struck King Harold. According to legend, it pierced his eye. Whether that detail is literal or symbolic, the outcome was the same. Harold fell. The King of England collapsed on the battlefield. The royal banner wavered, then fell. The English soldiers saw it. Their leader was dead. Confusion spread, fear followed, discipline broke. What no army could achieve, what hours of combat could not decide, was decided by one arrow. Not an army, not a charge, not a strategy. One shot, one moment. And with Harold's fall, the fate of England was sealed. The Battle of Hastings shows us a simple but unsettling truth. History does not always choose the strongest army, the largest force, or the most powerful weapons. Sometimes history chooses a moment. It was the autumn of 1066. England was tense. The throne was empty. The kingdom was divided. Everyone understood that the decisions made this year would shape the country for centuries to come. King Harold Godwinson had only just defeated the Norwegian king Harald Hardrada in the north. His army was exhausted. Many soldiers were wounded. But the danger was not over. In the south, William of Normandy was waiting. Harold made a critical mistake. He did not allow his army enough time to rest. He marched south in haste, trying to outrun fate itself. October 14th, 1066, a hill near Hastings. This hill was more than a piece of land. It was the future of England. On one side stood the Anglo-Saxon army, infantry soldiers, battle-hardened warriors, a solid shield wall, a defensive formation that had protected England for generations. They knew how to stand their ground. On the other side stood the Norman army, cavalry, archers, disciplined formations, a different way of fighting, a different way of thinking. This was not just a clash of armies, it was a clash of worlds. The battle began, swords collided, shields shattered, cries of pain and fury filled the air. The ground turned to mud and blood. Hour after hour passed. Neither side could claim a clear advantage. The Anglo-Saxon shield wall held firm. Repeated Norman attacks were pushed back. At one point, a rumor spread through the Norman ranks. William is dead. The army wavered. Some began to retreat. But William lifted his helmet, showed his face, and shouted that he was alive. It was a single moment. But history is often decided by moments. Then came another one. The Normans used a feigned retreat. Some English soldiers broke formation, chasing what they thought was a fleeing enemy. Gaps opened in the shield wall, and through those gaps, history entered the battlefield. And then, an arrow, one arrow among hundreds flying through the sky. According to legend, it struck King Harold in the eye. The king fell. When a leader falls, the spirit of an army falls with him. The English forces collapsed. Resistance crumbled. The battle was over. One arrow ended a battle. One battle changed a nation. William was victorious. But this victory was not merely military. It marked the end of an era. After 1066, England was never the same. The Anglo-Saxon nobility was almost entirely removed. Their lands were taken and given to Norman lords. Stone castles rose across the country, cold, imposing structures. They were not only defenses, they were messages. This land now belongs to us. The language changed. The common people spoke Old English. The court spoke French. The law spoke French. Power spoke French. Over time, these languages blended, giving birth to Middle English, the foundation of the language spoken today. The law changed. Land ownership changed. Power became centralized. In 1086, the Domesday Book was compiled. Every piece of land, every house, every animal, nothing escaped the king's record. This was not just a census, it was a map of absolute control. Nothing like it existed anywhere else in Europe. And all of this began with a single battle. And that battle turned on a single moment, a mistake, a decision, an arrow. The Battle of Hastings teaches us this. History does not always favor the strongest. Sometimes history favors chance, a moment so small it can be missed in the chaos of battle, yet powerful enough to reshape centuries. After 1066, England was not merely ruled differently, it thought differently, and history never turned back.